Hello everyone, my name's Sydney. I'm a third year vet student at the University of Missouri, and I am officially a quarter of the way done with my clinical rotations. So I feel like at this point I kind of know the things that I need to be successful in clinics. So I figured I'd make a video over everything that I think is a necessity for clinics. I do want to go ahead and preface that this is kind of just like my list of things that I think are essentials. It may not be your list, it may not like work for you. It also might not be something that is essential at your school. I do go to the University of Missouri. It's the only school I've ever like attended for vet school. So I can't necessarily speak to other vet schools and know what their essentials are. But for me personally, these are things that I have found to be essential both on campus at school and off campus on like clinical externships, rotations, things like that. So it's just kind of like my list that I found I need. Again, not saying it's like for everybody, but I figured I'd just make a video to kind of give an idea of things that you may need during clinics. The first thing that I have on the list is my laptop. This is the same laptop that I use during didactics, so the like book portion of clinics or of school. And in clinics, we have to write a lot of reports. I think for every patient, I have to write at least 2 reports, usually more than that, but at least 2 for every patient that I see. And so a lot of paperwork comes with clinical rotations. So at least I would say something with a keyboard that you could type on. I know some laptop or some iPads have the like Bluetooth keyboard. That would probably work, but for me, I already had this laptop. It works really well for me. I just carried it from like the didactic portion over into clinics. But do know, at least for Mizzou, there's a lot of paperwork that comes with clinics. So be prepared for that and have some sort of device that you could use to type your notes on. The second thing that I have on my list is my stethoscope. And then I wouldn't say these are necessarily necessities, but I would highly recommend them. The first is a name charm to go on your stethoscope, like this one, or something that's going to be like an identifying, preferably with your name, identifying thing on your stethoscope, because I know several people that have like lost theirs. So I would say definitely something that has your name on it. Next up, again, not a necessity, but I like it to go with my stethoscope, is a stethoscope case. A few reasons. One, I don't like the idea of just like crumpling and crushing my stethoscope when I put it in my bag with everything. So I know if it's in my stethoscope case, it is safe and not going to get destroyed. Also, with the case, it has additional like compartments to put things. So usually everything that I feel like I need, I'll just put it in the stethoscope case. That way when I get to clinics, I just pull out the whole stethoscope case, grab everything I need and go. So not a necessity, but I would recommend it. One, just to keep everything like in one location, and then 2, for protection of your stethoscope. And then I would highly, highly recommend a name charm of some sort. And then this is just a stethoscope cover that someone made at school, got it for free. Not a necessity whatsoever, but again, another like good identifying little feature for my stethoscope to have. The next is just general attire. So obviously scrubs are going to be very vital and essential for clinics. However, a few of our rotations require attire different from scrubs. So my internal medicine rotation will require business casual. And then my equine rotation requires that we have jeans and a polo like this. So scrubs, obviously, definitely a must, but bear in mind that some rotations may require different types of attire. So just kind of keep that in mind. I don't know, like I said, if this is true for every single school, but for mine personally at the University of Missouri, they do have us wear different clothing that is not just scrubs, but obviously scrubs are super, super necessary if you're going to be in a clinical setting. The next thing that I have on the list is probably pretty obvious, but it's pens, pencils, markers, highlighters. So yes, we have to do a lot of note-taking on our laptops or computers, but we have to do a lot of physical writing as well, filling out like medication sheets, cage cards, things like that. So definitely having one of these is pretty handy, also just to like jot something down really quick. Next on the list is a thermometer. Most of the time, these are supplied to you by the school, unless, and this is going to sound crazy, unless you go into an exam room, they do not have thermometers for you. Each individual department usually has a thermometer, but the exam rooms are shared by like all departments, and there's not a thermometer in there for you to use. And a lot of times they like you to get like your TPR, so your temp, pulse, respiration rate, and your physical done in the exam room. It's really hard to get a temp without a thermometer. So they did give us these thermometers before clinic started. My school did. And just carrying one around with you, you can pretty much ensure that you're always going to be able to get a TPR, even if you're in the exam room. So I recommend these. I don't know if all schools are that way, but at least for the University of Missouri, having a thermometer that is your own thermometer, I would recommend that. The next thing on the list, and I probably should have put this one directly after pens and pencils, but it's a notebook. So I would actually probably recommend getting a smaller notebook than this. I just happen to have this one, and I figured I'll use it until it's all full, and then I'll go get a smaller one. But I do typically bring my laptop with me into the exam room as I'm talking to the owners, and I will type into my notes everything that they're telling me. However, sometimes I don't want to lug my laptop around with me as I'm like traveling from room to room, and I will bring a notebook with me. It's just a little bit lighter. If I drop it, if it gets stepped on, anything like that, I'm not too worried about it breaking. However, I am a little worried about my laptop getting broken. So I know if I'm gonna be like running around, going to take the dog to get radiographs and then go talk to the owner and then come back, do a physical exam with all the clinicians and then go back. If I'm doing a lot of back and forth and I'm laying my laptop down, things like that, I will usually in place bring a notebook rather than, there's my cat, but I'll usually bring my notebook if I know I'm doing a lot of back and forth running around to where I might leave my laptop somewhere or like it gets stepped on, things like that. If I don't want that happening, I'll bring my notebook in place of my laptop. So definitely beneficial there. The next reason I really love notebooks is because I'm a big list girly. I love a to-do list, and I'm not very efficient if I don't have a to-do list. So I will like write a to-do list, and then as I complete it, I'll mark that thing off. You know how to-do lists work. But I'm sure it's all just in my head, but if a clinician's telling me like, oh, you need to do this, 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 and this, I don't like whipping out my phone and like sitting there typing in front of them as they're speaking to me. I personally think they probably know I'm making a to-do list, but I personally think it looks a little better, makes me look a little better if I'm like handwriting things as opposed to pulling up my phone and being like, I'm listening. You know, I know they probably aren't thinking anything of it, but I had to do that one time. The whole time I felt so bad. I was like, I promise I'm not texting. So for me personally, I would just much rather have pen and paper. Plus I like the satisfaction of physically crossing out a task after I've completed it. I feel like it gives me a little like dopamine rush, whereas I don't get that same dopamine rush when I just like delete it off my to-do list on my phone. So again, that might just be a me thing, but I do like having a physical notebook with me. I'm aware that these next few things may not apply to all schools, but they do apply to me and the University of Missouri. So if you are thinking of attending the University of Missouri, or you do, but you're curious what clinics is going to be like, here's a little heads up. They are super lacking on pill cutters, pill pushers, and some of these are necessities, but they're like really, really hard to come by. They do have some, just not a lot, and they aren't really willing to give them out. I think they know that students might steal them, or like lose them. So they're not like super willing to pass them out to everybody. So I had to buy my own. Pill cutters, a lot of times, well, I've come across this quite a few times where it will say like a fourth of a pill or like half of a pill or something like that. And I can't break the stinking pill. So having a pill cutter is very, very nice. This one my mom got me for Christmas off of Amazon. It has these like little dials on the side that you can push, and it adjusts this right here, and you put the pill in, bigger pill, smaller pill, and then the blade up there. So pretty fancy pill cutter, but you can get one at like Dollar Tree. And then this is just a pill pusher. The clinic that I work at, they gave it to me. So anyway, I consider these two items to be pretty much necessities. Like I said, this may not be the case for all schools. Some schools might supply you with these things or be a little more willing to allow you to use them. For me personally, I haven't found that that's really the case at the University of Missouri, so I had to go buy my own or like get my own some way. So definitely recommend these two though if you're going to be going to the University of Missouri. Also, little pro tip, anything that you buy like with your own money or anything that you have and you don't want it to get stolen, especially if it's something hard to come by, write your name on it. So I have my name on like all of these things. These are, like I said, the things that are kind of hard to come by in the school. And I don't want them stolen. They're easy to lose. So write your name. It's not a guarantee that they're going to make their way back to you, but it increases the chances that they will. So I definitely recommend writing your name on anything that you're like, don't want that stolen or lost. Next few things are bandage scissors, suture scissors, and hemostats. Again, these are kind of like the pill pusher and pill cutters. The school does have them. Sometimes it's like hard to find them. Sometimes they obviously have limited amounts of them. So the ICU is like the main place where you'll be using these things. If there's a lot of people in there, sometimes these things are hard to come by, or you have to like wait for people to finish using them. I have my own, so I went ahead and decided I'm just gonna like definitely bring them with me to school every day. The next thing the school actually did supply us with, it's these calipers. I got these on my oncology rotation, so they're for like measuring masses. I use them a lot on oncology. I haven't really had to use them since my oncology rotation. As you can imagine, we're not measuring and seeing a lot of masses unless you're on oncology. However, any off-campus rotation that I've done, I use my calipers when I would see a mass. I'm sure that the clinics had them as well, but I had them. And so I was like, oh, whipping out these bad boys. So it's something you'll use in practice and something I used a lot on my oncology rotation. So I don't know, once again, if your school would provide these for you. Mine did. If they don't, I do recommend getting you some calipers. Moving on is a slip lead or leash. The school sort of did provide these to us. They didn't like necessarily hand them out to us as we entered clinics like they did with the calipers and the thermometer. But they told us you're gonna be needing a slip lead. And so they were basically like, if you find one, grab one and try your best to hold on to that. The next thing that I have on the list is a watch or a timekeeping device of some sort. I wear this watch. I like it because I can see the seconds pass by. And when I'm taking TPRs and I need to count to 15 for pulse and respiration, I like that I can see the seconds go by. And then this one, the school did give us this before we started clinics. It just goes on your stethoscope and you can watch the seconds go by. I use this one pretty frequently, I would say, because it's just right there. I put my stethoscope in and I can just sit here and watch the seconds go by as I listen. However, sometimes I feel like the animal's not in a good position for me to like be able to look at this. So sometimes I do have to resort to my watch, but I would say that either option is a pretty good one to have. The next thing that I actually have on the list is a phone, which I'm using to record on. So, but a few reasons. One, the phone is their main form of communication. Clinicians will like message you on GroupMe or Teams or text you sometimes. ICU will call you or text you if they're having any problems with your animal that you need to go be there for. So definitely forms of communication. And then for us at the University of Missouri, we are having to call clients and owners pretty frequently. They like us to call at least twice a day with a morning and then like an evening update. So definitely would recommend having a phone on you during clinics. Moving right along, I have a water bottle and a lunch box. We, depending on which rotation you're on, you may get longer times for lunch or really short to non-existent times for lunch. So sometimes you may have time to like get some food. For us, we do have like a school cafeteria across the street, and sometimes that works. And then sometimes you don't have enough time to like go across the street and get food. I know DoorDash is like an option, things like that, but if you're trying to keep it under budget, bringing your own food is a way to save some money and still get to eat. So I like bringing water bottle and lunchbox. That way I can pretty much guarantee that even if it's a really rushed day, I can just grab some snacks out of my lunchbox and make sure that I'm still getting to eat that day. The next one is sort of a necessity. It's a scrub cap. So obviously any surgery that you've got, you'll have to have a scrub cap. However, you don't probably have to go buy one. For us, they had like the throwaway one-time use bouffants that you could use. I did use those for like the first 3 rotations that I had. And then I decided I wanted a cute one. And so I got this little toxin one. My mom got it for me for Christmas once again. I believe she just got it off of Amazon. So it's got the scrub cap part and then this little part that I can put my hair up in. So anytime I have to go into surgery, a scrub cap still is a necessity. Like I said, don't think you have to go out and buy one. For me personally, I just wanted a little bit cuter of a scrub cap. We're getting down to just the last few items that I have on my list. And now we're getting into some of the large animal things that I have. So I have my Muck Boots. I've mentioned this in my last like vet school essential video that you do not have to go buy, at least at the University of Missouri, you don't have to go buy actual Muck Boots, and they'll allow you to have like rain boots. But for me personally, I want to do mixed animal. It's something I know I want to do, and I will be wearing these for the remainder of my career as long as they last. So I went ahead and invested in actual Muck Boots. They're pretty pricey for boots, but it's an investment in me and my future career. So I thought it's well worth it. But bear in mind that you may not have to have like actual Muck Boots, especially if large animal, mixed animal is not something that you're necessarily super interested in. Next up is Bibs and Coveralls. Same thing, this may not be something that you necessarily need. I'm not sure, like tracking schools, if you chose not to do large animal, you probably wouldn't need bibs or coveralls, but Mizzou is not a tracking school. So even if you have no interest in mixed or large animal, you'll probably still need bibs and coveralls. Like I said, I am interested in mixed animal. So I have the UtterTech brand. I do think bibs considered, these are not super pricey, but they're also not like the cheapest bibs that you could get. But again, it's an investment in me and my future career. And then the last two things on the list. First up is a pair of comfy shoes. You're on your feet most all day. Obviously, this does depend rotation to rotation, but for the most part, I do find that you're doing more standing than you are sitting. So a pair of comfy shoes is definitely recommended. And the last thing is not a necessity, maybe everywhere, but once again, for the University of Missouri, I would highly recommend it. It's a backpack. So we do have lockers that we can store our items in, but we share those lockers with another person. So I think for the most part, people are pretty courteous and try not to keep every single one of their belongings in the locker. So I would say if you're at the University of Missouri, a backpack to carry all of these things that we just talked about is pretty much a necessity. I'm assuming other schools may have lockers where it's just you and you can keep that stuff in your locker and therefore you may not need a backpack. That's not the case for Mizzou. So a backpack is very much needed and required pretty much to get all of this stuff to and from the school every day. So I think that's everything that I consider to be a necessity for vet students entering clinics. I hope this helped you. I hope even if you're not going to the University of Missouri, you're going somewhere else where they have like different requirements. Hopefully this gave you a little bit of an idea of things that you will probably be using pretty often. I hope just overall in general, this was a helpful video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed and goodbye.